This is a continuation of my first video on the topic of how to improve your driving. If you haven't seen the first video, I highly recommend watching that first before watching this one. With that being said, let's continue. Now, I've gone over the basics when it comes to improvements, and now you're at a point where you're in the regular classes or even the pro classes, and still want to improve. Now, this video isn't going to be how to win your war regional. This is just going to focus more on personal improvement and some techniques I use to get ahead of the track. Let's get started. Now, I've already done a video on the absolute basics when it comes to setting up your car, so I recommend checking that video out if you want a basic understanding of what does what. But there's something else you might want to know. And that's that not every setup is going to be exactly for you. In a comment on my last video, one thing that helped out Hans here is that he set up his car to be more consistent, not for a hero lap. This is something that I did and I implore others to do the same. It's easier to control a car that has a little bit of understeer than it is to control a car that has a little bit of oversteer. As time goes on, however, your driving ability will start to improve, and with it, your car setup must improve with you. One thing I noticed about driving most Fast Skies cars is that they tend to be on the twitchier side, being able to swap ends and turn on a dime. This is because they're able to use that excess of steering to their advantage, and over time, you will too. For now though, try to set up your car to be a bit more predictable, and even dull. You'll thank me later. One thing I find kind of odd is that many people will buy these $300 radios and ESCs without ever using them to their potential. This is part of the reason why all of my 10th skill RC cars run just stock ESCs. I simply don't have the need for the extra adjustment. One thing I generally play with is the punch level on my ESCs. On my Hobbywing just stock ESCs, this is labeled as DRRS punch on the programming card. The higher the punch, the quicker your car will reach, or try to reach, max RPM. The higher the grip of the surface you're racing on has, the more punch you're going to want. When it comes to the settings on your radio, it's a bit trickier to pin down what will work for you. I equate settings like throttle curve and expo and such to be the same as adjusting sensitivity on a first-person shooter. It's all down to personal preference. One thing I do advise doing when it comes to radios and ESCs is to read the manual. Study the manual and see what everything does. That way, if you ever need to make on-the-stand adjustments like removing some steering or adjusting the brakes, you actually know how. You have no idea how long it took me to fully understand how this Futaba 4PLS actually worked. Another thing to watch out for is knowing when the car is upset. I mentioned before in my last video about how knowing your car is upset comes with experience, but I didn't go into much detail other than that. Upset can be a catch-all term for many ways, but generally upset is a synonym for unstable. Here are a few ways to know when your car is upset or unstable and when they usually happen. When your car starts fishtailing in a straight and won't settle, when the front of your car bounces after a hard landing, most hard landing when the bottom of the chassis slaps the ground, when you land a jump sideways or anything other than straight, after making contact with another car, when your car understeers or oversteers where it usually doesn't do so, and when your car just doesn't really feel right. That last one is a bit arbitrary, but trust me when I say you'll know when you feel it. Now, what do you do when your car is upset? Well, it's easier to tell you what not to do, and that's push it hard. Usually when your car is sideways, adding more power will not straighten it out. These cars are not front-wheel drive. Adding more power when your front wheels are in touch with the ground is also a bad move. When you feel that your car is getting upset, it's best to slow down and try to get back into whatever rhythm you might have had. In my case, I'm doing this every jump, and that's why I'm so slow. Allowing your car to settle before you get back onto the power will save you from crashing more times than you might realize. Remember, it's always faster to take a jump or feature slowly than to flip and have to be marshaled. The last thing I want to go over is traffic. Getting around or even surviving traffic is usually very difficult. Unless you're at the very top in terms of skill level, chances are that you're not going to be able to drive nose to spoiler for too long without crashing. Take advantage of this. If you find yourself in a large crowd on the track and you see a chance to break away, take it, and that includes if you have to lose places to do it. Now of course this is situational, but generally you don't want to be caught up in large traffic. Crashes tend to happen in wheel-to-wheel racing at a club level and you don't want to be a part of it. It's pretty much as simple as it's hard to crash into somebody when there's nobody around you. Let everyone else crash as you drive past them when they're on their lid. That's all for now. If you have any tips on improving your driving that you might want to share for other people, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. I also implore you to hit the like button if you liked the video and hit the bright red subscribe button if you want to see more. I'll see you later.